And now Monty Nevin's coming under pressure. Summer Grounds, Rouse, Knapwood, Garswood, Lady are following. Special Rate has travelled really well for Tommy Dowson. Looking to the inside, Brand New's now having to ask Quairsom in about third position. Coming towards the second last, Special Rate and $5 fine Quairsom. Monty Nevin on the near side, running down towards the final hurdle with over a furlong to go. Special Rate and $5 fine from Quairsom, and Monty Nevin has been a bit novice-y. They're on the flat. Special Rate's in front of $5 fine. Quairsom needs to find another gear on the near side. Monty Nevin continues to stay on really well. It's Special Rate being followed by $5 fine and Monty Nevin. Here's the winning line. Special Rate just great finish. Special Rate.
Right, well, that was quite a nice start to this video. My horse has won, and I've taken that horse from the horse racing tracker at Bookie Bashing. I might win a little bit on that. I might lose because it was a lucky 31. But I want to go through a video looking at the basics of the horse racing tracker on Bookie Bashing. Actually, trackers, it's plural, and we'll explain why in a second. But this is kind of the first instructional video for all of the different trackers and tools. We've got like 23 trackers and tools at Bookie Bashing. And in this video and in the next two videos after this, I'm going to specifically be looking at horse racing. Now, horse racing is really the bread and butter at Bookie Bashing. As of this video, when I'm recording it on the 16th of May 2023, we have been voted the #1 horse racing tipsters in the UK at the Smart Betting Club Betting Awards. That was in 2022. We're up again this year. Hopefully we get the title. It's a very popular tracker that we have. What is the difference between trackers and conventional tips in horse racing? So you might open up the Racing Post traditionally, and you might see a well-known racing figure, for example, Rory Delaghe, and he's maybe got the NAP, the NAP being his best horse of the day, a tip at a particular race, 4-1, go and bet on horsey four legs, okay? Now, the industry and the tipping industry ran like that for a number of years. It's not a particularly easy way of getting down a lot of volume. And the problem with horse racing is volume is very necessary in order to get through periods of variance. You could have a great strategy, but if you're not placing enough bets, then you're not going to be able to deal with the variance. And in horse racing, 365 bets might not be enough. Now, for advantage players and professional bettors, a racing tracker, or the ability to look at a large quantity of horses all at the same time, is vital for getting volume down. So I've just got over to the racing tracker just now. Now I have filtered here by Betfred Shop, but if I was to show all books, what we see here is instead of a single horse being tipped up at 4-1, this is a good horse. The tracker instead looks at every horse, at every race, at every race course, at every bookmaker, and identifies which ones are plus EV and which ones are negative EV. And so you see on this tracker, the best horse just now is at Sky Bet. It is good to go. It is 128.26% EV, and it is 28-1. As we scroll down, all of these horses over 100% EV are good. Loads and loads and loads of different horses at different bookmakers. I don't know how many that is, but that looks like a good, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 different horses right now on a Tuesday afternoon at 10 minutes past 2 or plus EV, maybe 70 horses. It's a lot to go through. You wouldn't get 70 horses in the Racing Post as plus EV. And so the question a lot of people have is, well, what am I meant to do here? This is almost overwhelming information, especially if you're used to a small number of tips. And really, the answer is don't worry about getting on them all. Okay, now that we've got a large data set from which we can choose, we can apply strategies. And strategies really are down to personal risk tolerances, personal preferences. However, I can show you around how the tracker works and different settings that we have, different filters that we have, so that you can at least understand in this video perhaps the source of the information, where it's coming from, how to use the different settings filters, features, where to find stuff. In the next video, I'm kind of going to look a little bit more at different strategies. Staking strategies, results, drawdowns, multiple singles, things like that. You saw at the beginning of this video, I was betting on a multiple. I'm known as Lucky 31. You can see the bet slip here. That is 31 each way bets. I'm on 5 different horses there. My first horse is won, Special Rate. My second horse, Starlight, is coming up. I got all of these from the tracker. I placed this at Betfred shops. So if I just filter by Betfred shop, we see here Whirling Dervish is still in the tracker as 28 to 1 now at Fred. When I got on him a couple of hours ago, he was 33 to 1 in shop. Neutral odds are 28.48. So he was good at 33 to 1, still good at 28 to 1 here. And when I was in the shop, the other 3 horses in my bet slip were good. They won't be good now, presumably because they've been cut. Sometimes they're not good because they drift. Again, when we come to strategies, we'll talk about, do we have to worry about getting on a bet at a particular time? What happens if it drifts? What happens if it steams? But all 5 of those horses came from here, and I stuck it in a Lucky 31 each way bet, £1, and that means I've got a bunch of singles, a bunch of doubles, trebles, quadruples, and the quintuple payout will pay an absolute jackpot fortune if I'm fortunate enough to get the remaining 4 winners on that bet slip. So I want to start this video by having a look at the difference between the horse racing tracker basic that we have on the site and the horse racing tracker pro. So at the top here, you will see that there are 2 racing trackers at Bookie Bashing. I'm going to open up the horse racing tracker basic in a separate tab up here. Here we have the horse racing tracker pro. If I go over to the horse racing tracker basic, I'm going to show all books here. It looks very similar. So why do we have 2 horse racing trackers at Bookie Bashing? Well, we originally built this horse racing tracker that you can see, the horse racing tracker basic. And after 1 year of running this, it was very successful, and we took a lot of feedback, and we really worked on honing the logic, the mathematics, making a lot of enhancements. And after about a year of this running, we came up with what is now the Horse Racing Tracker Pro. And the idea originally was we were just going to turn this tracker off. The basic tracker was just going to be turned off. But we listened to feedback, and actually this horse racing tracker shows slightly different horses due to slightly different logic rules than the Pro tracker. But it is still profitable. And not only that, it gives users a wider scope of horses to bet on. So the same horses may be slightly different on the basic and the pro. Some might be negative EV on the basic and positive EV on the pro. Now, in that situation, the logic in the pro is better. So if you want to know which one you need to listen to if you get 2 differing opinions from the 2 trackers, I would always go with the pro. But that doesn't mean that the basic isn't profitable. Moving over to the pro tracker, the Pro Tracker has a different method of collecting the data, and it is set to be more sensitive to movements on the exchanges, potentially highlighting value earlier, but also more at risk of picking up on false indicators caused by low levels of liquidity on the exchange. The Pro data comes from a third-party supplier, the back odds do anyway, called OddsHawk. So this feed comes in for all these different books at all these different races from an external source. The feed for the basic tracker is managed in-house, and that means that we've got a protection mechanism there as well, because sometimes something can go wrong. Quite often these scrapes get blocked, and when one goes down, it's completely separate to the other, and that means that we should always have at least one horse racing tracker running at any given time. That's why we have both the Horse Racing Tracker Basic and the Horse Racing Tracker Pro running simultaneously. Bigger scope of horses, both are profitable. If one goes down, the other one will stay live. Another big difference is that on the Horse Racing Tracker Basic, we are able to manage it a little bit better. So if we want to add in international racing in France, in Dubai, in America, because we think there's a value to be had there, then we will. We can't do that on the Pro Tracker because we don't manage the feed so much. But on the Pro Tracker, we've got the ability to look at shops. So you see here, Betfred shop. All of these terms are calibrated very early in the morning by our community to match the terms that are available in shop. Now that I've gone through the difference between the basic and the pro, I'm going to take you through basically the layout and how to use it. Again, not going to look at strategies or really how to select horses. We'll do that in the next video. But this is just mainly how to use the tracker. And I'm going to focus just on the Racing Tracker Pro because they're pretty much identical other than a couple of fine differences between the two. So first of all, at the top, I have a filter for the bookmaker, and I can show all books here. I can also set this up just to show a number of books that I consider to be my books, my online books, or my shop books. We'll come to how we set that up later in the video. So we have the filters along here, and then there's some headers here. We have the Racing Tracker, we have the race list. So the difference between the two are the Racing Tracker aggregates all horses into the same table. The race list aggregates all horses into the same race. So I can go and have a look at the 215 at Newcastle, which is a filthy each way race designated, just so that we know the rating of each race, when it's going to start, the shop terms if necessary, the runners, the best EV, 5,828 because this is 10 minutes ago. So we've got some in-play information coming into this, but you can't actually bet on anything that went off 10 minutes ago. If I had a look at the 1500 at Berkeley, which is a filthy each way race because we have a 1.91 favourite. Nobody's actually value at any bookmaker in this race under my confidence metric, but at least we can see all the different horses and their EV. So that's the difference between the Racing Tracker and the race list. Moving along the line, we've got My Bets, where we can add horses to a little area of the site where it collects our bets. We know what we've bet on in a particular day. We can hide some runners. There's a tool for race meetings. This is actually not something we're going to cover in this series of videos. It's a tool, not a tracker, but it's got information about the odds of jockeys winning particular races, owners winning races, winning distances, a lot of things that can be used as spreads. It's just really a data repository that we can interrogate what's happening at horse racing meetings. And finally, we've got My Settings, which is a key area for calibrating the tracker. And we will look at that in a little bit. In terms of the columns, now the columns that you see may be different to the columns I see depending on what is in my settings. But this is what I've got set up just now. I've got the runner, I've got a confidence level, I've got the EV and the odds, the neutral odds. So this top horse, Woodley, 40 to 1, neutral odds is 32.25. That means if I see him cut to 33 to 1, I know he's still a good price. Sometimes this data will come into our tracker and it's really valid up till about 1 to 2 minutes, sometimes 3-4 minutes if it's a little bit slow. That means if it was cut in the last 20 seconds or so and I go over to Bet365 and I try and get Woodley, he may be 33 to 1 just now. And so knowing the neutral odds means that I can make a decision about whether I would want to bet on this horse or not. And of course we want to bet on him each way, because this is an each way tracker, at any odds above the neutral odds. So 33 to 1 should be okay. And then some information that I'm just interested in. The win fair odds are 44. Now, you should really never be betting when the odds that you can get are higher than the win fair odds, because that's an arbitrage bet, and that's got no longevity in betting. If you are going to arb horses, you are not going to get very many bets on with the bookmaker. So we would advise removing any arbitrage opportunities from your tracker. You can do that under my settings. We'll come to that in a bit. The place fair odds. So this is 3 places. This Woodley horse is 5.72 to finish in the places, in those exact places, 3 places. The next horse, Plankton, is 2.69 to finish in the 5 places. And these are calculated in-house using a variety of different methods. We've got some win EV and we've got some place EV. And if you combine those together, you will get the overall EV. And just some information about places, terms, the exact race that it is, the bookmaker that we're on, and the last time that the price updated. OC update is the latest time that we got it. And, hopefully this shouldn't drift up to 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes, but if it was to, then you might find that the horse has been cut. Also, if it ever does do that, do let us know through support, because sometimes that can happen and we don't notice. It just means that we might need to reboot a particular scraper or get in touch with the feed supplier. So this is one way of having the view. You can have the view slightly differently, but before I come to that, that's all in my settings. The filters that we've got at the top, we can filter by all books, my online books, or my shop books. We can filter by EV. Now, we don't by default show any horses below 80% EV because it would really slow the page down. And what use is it having all of those negative EV horses on the page? Who cares if a horse is 85% EV? It's not that useful information. And it would overload the page if we did have every horse live and updating all the time on this page. So the default, I think, you cannot see anything below 80%. I've got 90% set. That's my preference. If you want to, you can filter odds below and filter odds above, so you can get rid of this 200 to 1 horse, or you can get rid of any horses under 5 to 1 if that is your particular betting strategy. Search for a book if you want to. Have a look at the off. Should we look at today, or today and tomorrow, next 10 minutes, next hour, next 3 hour, and have a look for a runner name if you want to go and find a runner name. So one of those horses I was betting on earlier was called Starlight. So if I just search for the first few letters of that horse, and then we see that Starlight still good at William Hill, because 4 to 1 over there, which is the odds that I got earlier. Think cut now at Betfred, so I'm not going to see them there. But that filter just helps us find particular horses. So that's how our filters work. Now, occasionally you might put in, for example, that you only want to see EV above 120%. Or you might want to filter odds below 66 to 1, and you want to get rid of odds over 100 to 1. And what we have here is that, we've filtered out all of the information. And occasionally we get people getting in touch with us saying, the tracker is down, I can't see any horses. And we have a look at it and say, the tracker's working fine. And what it is that they have put filters in place where no horses match their criteria. And so if you can't see any horses, the first thing I would just suggest is do check that you don't have any filters in place. Maybe put your EV filter to 80 or 90, get rid of any of the odds filters, and then hopefully that should kick in the horses. If you still can't see any horses after that, then there probably is an issue, and please do get in touch via support, which is under account. Additionally, on this page, we have some buttons next to each horse. So the I is a little information button. I'm just going to click the I by bedside banter. So in this table here, we have some information over in the middle. The last price matched, the back and the lay, and that's for win, top 4, top 2, and top 3. We make our own books for top 4, our own books for top 2, and our own books for top 3. These are the different numbers. The source of information here is the back price at the exchange, the lay price at the exchange, the last price matched. If it's valid, we don't have one for top 2. It could be that the last price match is outside the existing back and lay, but outside 8 and 15. Perhaps nothing's been matched, but regardless, we don't have a figure for it. And the best bookmaker price is BBP. And using all of this information, we bring it all together, and we've got a series of logic progressions that allow us to estimate what the price is, the fair price is, based on this table here. The win is 25 to 1 at Bet365 with the place odds, and the number of places and the terms. And we've got different data models which can be calibrated and used in the settings, which again we'll come to, but we've got a default model. We've got a default model that doesn't use best bookmaker price. Now, the default model, just to let you know, makes its own decision about what we at Bookie Bashing think is the best order of confidence of the data. Like, we have the most amount of confidence in a liquid exchange and the least amount of confidence in our own in-house modeling. And the confidence changes through the data between the most and the least. So the default uses different data types for each horse depending on what's available. Obviously here we can't use top 2 book for LPM, so we would use different data for that. We can use default without a BBP, We can use the default where we don't look at the LPM, we just look at the lay price of the win. We can look at the lay, the last traded price, the best bookmaker price, and we get slightly different EV for all of these figures, for the win and for the place. We can change Bet365 to a different book. Let's say we've got Sky Bet instead, and we can see that those are the two bookmakers that this horse is plus EV at, and the rest of them all the way down to SpreadX. It's getting progressively worse. And then a little bit of information about the race, how many runners there is. I can get a link over to Oddschecker, Betfair Win, and Betfair Place here. And some information at the bottom here about the over-round with the top 2, the top 3, which, of course, when it's a win, you expect the over-round to be 100% if there's no margin added. 103% means 3% on top. With top 2, you would expect 200%, top 3, 300%, top 4, 400%, top 5, top 8, 800%, etc., etc. And so this kind of gives you an idea of the accuracy to which markets are being priced. The top 2 is a little bit less accurate, for example, than the top 3. We can see here, feeds into a sort of picture that allows us to make decisions about the confidence that we apply to this information. Some price histories at different books, and alongside that the EV histories, and we can add the bet here if we want to. So let's say we've just taken this bet at Bet365 at odds of 26 to 1. We've put, I don't know, £8 on to bet to £200 on the win. EV taken there, and I'm going to add that to my selections. And we will come to my selections in a little bit. So I've now added my bet. So that's what's underneath information. The add button is the same thing. It just takes me straight to add bet. It's just a little shortcut there. And let's say Hope Hill here. I'm already bet on him. I'm no longer interested. Don't want to see him. I can remove him from my view by clicking remove. So it's remove, add, and information. The last tab to have a look at is my settings. And so just to run through these. The book settings, we can add different books. So let's say you don't want to see all books, but you want to make your own list. So I'm going to add Sky Bet to here. I'm going to add Ladbrokes. And I can have some shop books as well. So let's add Betfred. And let's add William Hill shop. And if I go back to the racing tracker, then I see at the top here, I can show all books. I've got my shop books here that I can go straight to, and my online books there as well. So that just helps me manage the books that I want to see at the top of the list. So the data settings. So the metrics are default, which is the best guess that we have for every horse, and it will jump around depending on the data that's available for it. The lay is used at the exchange, as opposed to using the last traded price or the lay, depending on the composition, which is what is in the default. The last traded price could be used. The best bookmaker price to make a market can be used, so you can sort of ignore the exchange completely using the best bookmaker price. A default that uses the win lay price and doesn't mess around with last price match and back can be used. The BB algo, which is our in-house algorithm, and finally a default but without using any bookmaker price can be selected at the bottom. So there are different data metrics to use to calculate the EV. Here we can turn on the BB algo or not. The BB algo is a data metric, as we said, that calculates the odds of the place markets for every horse in-house without the exchange or the bookmakers. You can turn this off or on here. The BB algo carries a confidence level of 5. If I go to the racing tracker, anything with a red, such as the Dazar, that is a BB algo horse here. It is the least amount of confidence that we assign to anything. The full green bar is full confidence. The full red bar is no confidence. Back into my settings. You can show only the highest EV runner from each race. Now, one race might have 5 horses that are plus EV. Do you want to see them all? Some people do. But if you are placing a multiple, you can only have one horse from each race in that multiple. And so you may only want to see the highest EV runner from each race, and you can do by turning this on. We really recommend that you filter win odds above 100%. You could have this off if you want. You can see loads of win odds on the racing tracker if you want to. But if you bet on any of them, you will have very few bets left with that particular bookmaker. You can hide runners 10 minutes before the off. The reason we offer this is that the 10 minutes before the off, the prices can change very, very quickly, and it's actually quite difficult for our tracker to keep up with the speed at which prices change. And any race that's going off in the next 10 minutes is probably the most likely race where you're going to encounter odds that have been cut. And so you can just turn these off if you would like to. The confidence filter goes from 1 to 4. You can filter all confidence below any particular rating if you want. So if you just want max confidence, go to 4. And that is the data settings you can use on the tracker. And over here we have some display settings, so we can calibrate our racing tracker here. So my selections, if we go back to racing tracker over here, if I just add a few here, let's add this one. I'm not going to change the stake, but I'm just going to add a few. So that's 1 added, and that's 2 added. So I've added a couple of horses at random, and I'm just going to hide this bomb squad, right? So you can see that the greens are highlighted as my selections and the grey is highlighted as a hidden horse over here. Well, you can display them on the tracker or you can not display them on the tracker. If you don't display them on the tracker, when I go back, you'll see that they've disappeared. But if I go back to my settings and turn these on, you will see that they've reappeared after a second or two, and as I think. So you can show your selections or the hidden selections or not. And this way you know the horses you're already on or the horses you're not interested in. And these display settings just calibrate that. The EV listing style can be detailed. So if I pop over back to detailed, you'll see that the bookmaker shifts and you get a bit of information. It takes up a little bit more space. My preference is to have it on as compact, and there's a minimal option as well. And then finally, just some different columns you can have around neutral EV odds, win odds, place odds, and win EV and place EV. You can turn those columns off and on. So I mean, if you didn't want to see anything, and go back over to the racing tracker, and you get quite a narrow view, very minimal information there. Personally, I like to have a little bit more, but it's up to you. The spark line I can turn off and on here. So if I turn it on and go back to the racing tracker, this is on the racing tracker basic. Show all books. And here we see some spark lines, bedside banter, for example, starting to steam in a little bit. Bullet down here starting to drift. So just where we have the information for various horses, we're able to see if they're steaming and they're drifting. Don't think this is available on the Pro tracker just because it affects performance a little bit too much. Finally, down in staking settings, we have 3 valid staking methodologies. We do a unit win, a unit loss, and a Kelly staking. These are all available under the My Bets. And we do a BB staking option, golf only, so it's not really applicable for horse racing. So back over to the racing tracker. I've selected a few horses. Let's add another one. I'm going to add that guy. I've had £5 on him. Now, under My Bets, I can now see all the horses that I've bet on today. Now, I haven't really changed the stakes from any of these. £5, £5. This first one was 8. But I can see that I got 77 pence EV from the first one. I got 17 pence EV, so I made 84p EV from the first two. The second 2 bets were actually negative because I was just taking any horse, so I lost 11 pence EV. Overall, I've made, in my head, I think 83 pence EV out of these 4 horses with these 4 stakes. I can download those selections. I can update if there's been any more going on in a different tab, so forth and so on. So I can just keep track of the horses that I've been betting on under my selections. That's an overview of how to use the Horse Racing Tracker Pro and the Horse Racing Tracker Basic and the difference between them at Bookie Bashing. Hopefully it's all quite intuitive. In the next video, I'm now going to have a look at different horse racing betting strategies, different staking strategies, different times of the day, different races, Ireland versus the UK, singles and multiples and things like that. And in the third video, I'm going to be having a look at these red confidence horses that we price up ourselves, the BB Algo.